up, everybody? I'm still processing my emotions, and I can't lie, it's hard. When my dad died in 2011, I poured all my love into my mom. Now that cup is empty. When my mom passed, I felt this void in my heart is empty. I know that's not the case because of the spirit of my parents are still here. Nevertheless, it's still hard because I still miss their voices. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you my mom's eulogy. So here's the eulogy I gave to my mom. I prefer to call my mom the warrior queen because of how strong she is. She had that fighter instinct to never give up. It was a long battle. She fought to her last breath. I want to acknowledge all the mothers that are out here on social media and say God gave mothers the gift of unconditional love that was taught to us from each one of us from our mothers. And it's so hard to say goodbye to the strongest, trusting, loving, caring woman I've known. My mom can rest now knowing she did a wonderful job raising myself and my siblings. She taught all of us to soar on her own like an eagle. My mom had a sweet tooth, and it started when she was a young child. My grandparents had a country store, and one day they couldn't find her. And they looked and looked and looked, and they still couldn't find her. And they finally found her inside the candy case, eating all the little candies. So she was taking one bite, and then she was tossing it away, taking a bite, tossing it away. And I can imagine the look on how she looked at that age eating the candy, because I recently bought her a candy from Senior Murphy's. It's a candy store in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And when she looked the look on her face when I gave her that piece of chocolate, it was priceless. And it's like I still remember that. So when my mom passed on her sweet tooth to the rest of the family because she loved to make sweets. To this day, I cannot find another apple pie. She made it because it was made out of the apples from our apple tree. We had multiple type of apples, and she made it out of love. That's irreplaceable. And at the same country store, my mom learned how to sell. She learned how to be persistent. She learned how to be confident and being knowledgeable in whatever she sold, from beautifying your face to beautifying your walls. She did it all. She even sold the childhood home at a garage sale. That was amazing. She did that. My mother's sense of humor was a part of life. It's how she looked at life. She called her walker the Cadillac. And one time, while she was on the Cadillac, she fell down. She fell down multiple times, and she would always land on her butt. And she would say, "It's a good thing I landed on my butt because that's where the cushion is. And if I can look up, I can get up." She was always putting a different perspective to things in life. When I was a young teenager, I was at a wedding out of state. And I found a dirty magazine, and I borrowed it. And my mother found it underneath the dresser, and she replaced it with the Bible. Came from a very religious family, and so she always wanted a priest in the family. And one time, with always wanting a priest, my older brother Leroy, he was an altar boy all the way up until 9th grade, and she thought that he was going to become a priest, but he also thought that he was going to be a plumber because he liked plumbing. So she always thought that he could be a part-time priest and a part-time plumber. She thought a part-time priest is better than no priest at all. So one time for Halloween, my brother dressed up as a priest, and then my mom said, "Great, now you get to hear confessions, and don't forget, I want to hear all the juicy details." And so my mom, when I got my divorce, my mom said to me, "You could become a priest." And I said, "No, Mom, I can't become a priest. I was married. She goes, you can go to confession for that. And I said, okay, Mom, I can't become a priest. And I said, I like women. She goes, oh, you can go to confession for that. So I always have to push the envelope with my mom. So I told her, Mom, I can't become a priest. I like sex too much. She replied, you can go to confession for that. So my mom always had a way of looking at life, and it's just amazing and how she looked at life. And especially like around like Christmas, Christmas time right now, it's around Christmas time. And we would always get these boxes of chocolates, candy chocolates. And so they were given to us during Christmas, big, huge boxes of chocolates. And then when we finally opened them up to finally get to the candy, at first we wondered what happened to the pieces of candy, because there was like pieces of the bites, pieces of candy that were bitten, and just half of it was still there. Then we finally realized my mom got to it. I guess it's a way of protecting her candy. So for me, my mom taught me how to be a man, treat people with respect, to always be humble, to give rather than receive, to be dependable, to have patience, to go after what I want, to be honest, to be courageous, and to be compassionate. And it's okay to laugh at yourself. My mom showed her love by the acts of service of what she did, what she did with food. We were never hungry. Every morning and every night we had a hot meal. There was no such thing as a microwave meal in our house. And even if the money got so tight, she would stretch that food to make it cover my 2 brothers, 3 sisters, my dad, the neighborhood kids, company, whoever shows up. She always had abundance of food. It was like she was a modern day Jesus, making food out of nothing. I remember one time we would have tang, and every time that tang got a little low, my mom would add more and more water to the tang, and then she would tell everybody and say, it's tang light. And I was an honorary kid. Just to let you know, I was an honorary kid. And one of my lessons that my mom taught me is the consequences. There's consequences to your actions. And when I was in 8th grade, I was throwing rocks across the street with one of the neighborhood kids, when suddenly, I don't know who it was, we ended up hitting a car. So my neighborhood childhood friend ran directly into his house. I jumped into a neighbor's backyard, then I jumped into another neighbor's backyard, then I jumped into another neighbor's backyard, and then finally into my parents' backyard, went around, finally get into the house, and here I thought I was home free, scot-free, nothing. Then next thing you know, doorbell rang. Next thing you know, I'm beaten by my mom, beaten by my dad, and still, this didn't bother me. It didn't faze me at all because I was an honorary kid. So she knew how to punish me differently. So I couldn't take the bus to Vargas Junior High anymore. So she would drop me off at school. My dad would drop me off at school, and then my mom would pick me up. And so how she picked me up, she would wear curlers in her hair, and she would wear a pink muumuu. So instead of staying in the car, what she would do is she would get outside of the car. So it parked right in front of the school, the main entrance. She would get out of the car and she would start yelling, "Fred, I'm here!" Let's put it this way. That punishment made me have a nickname of being known as the Pink Muumuu Boy. And I don't know whether or not this is the truth or not, but I couldn't get a date until I was a junior in high school. And also that girl was a transfer student. So it's no surprise. We always end up like our parents. When you're a kid, you want to be like your parents. When you're a teenager, you always want to be away from your parents. And when you become an adult, you realize you became your parents. So I want to leave you with this. So time is precious. Time is so precious. And we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So I ask you this. What are you doing with the time that God gave you? What legacy do you want to leave? And lastly, when you die, die on E. That means empty. Leave no stones unturned and with no regrets. You have a blessed and awesome day. I'm Fred Martinez, and peace. Love you.